The Pistons hired Monty Williams.
Here we go.
They made him the highest paid coach
Yes, we did.
in the NBA.
Oh my God.
$13 million a year. That's what he's getting. And he rejected this offer at first from the Pistons and the Bucks. He said he wanted to take a break from coaching. Then the Pistons said, you know what? We're going to up the offer. We're going to make you the highest paid coach in the NBA.
He's a player.
And I know this is a good spot for Monty because I think he has a history of developing up-and-coming teams.
I agree.
And on top of that, he's getting a bag. And at least in Detroit, the pressure to win is minimal. He's not going to face real pressure to win maybe until the third or fourth year of his coaching tenure.
Max.
So you're going to a destination that you're getting paid a lot of money. You have little to no pressure. I think it's a win-win. This is the best situation he could have asked for. He probably wanted to take that 1 year break, but the money was too good to pass up. I don't blame him.
Talk to me, Mr. Piston.
1 year, 11 teams. Here we go.
Oh, we're here.
It's going to be a fun offseason.
Are you happy?
We're going to be free agency and draft. It's going to be we.
Oh, no, it's going to get worse when Amen gets drafted to the Rockets, and I'm a Rockets fan.
Let me ask you a question.
And when All-Star goes to, if he goes to Charlotte, I'm here.
Oh, my God. You're going to like the
Welcome
entire
aboard.
NBA in a
Yeah,
year.
at this point, it'll get there.
where do the Pistons rank in these 11 teams?
Warriors, Bulls.
They dropped.
Bro,
They're signing Vucevic.
The Bulls are out of your top.
They dropped to 4.
So outside of the Warriors, is everyone just in a tier? Like Warriors are number one.
Warriors
Everyone else
are,
is just in a
my
tier
heart
of
will
itself.
forever be
Yeah.
at 1. I think the Pistons are like 3 or 5.
Clippers, they're falling off too.
Clippers are 2.
Oh, still.
They went up to 2.
Oh, okay.
Or George podcast
nice.
moves me.
Got it. No, for sure.
Moves me
It's
mightily.
a great
The
podcast.
teams that actually.
Cleveland, they fell down because Garland,
They lost.
they didn't show up.
You're a
I think
front
this
runner.
was best case scenario if you're.
I'm from. I'm a fan of the Pistons.
You were a Bulls fan. They started sucking. Now they dropped to like 5.
Dog, they're signing Vucevic,
I'm not saying it's
Bro, he
right.
was one of your best players this year.
and that's horrible.
That's great.
I'm not saying it's right, but just stick with your guys.
No,
Nah.
they're still my guys.
Nah,
Because
bro,
it's, no,
you
it's
needed to
always
sign him.
it's
You
always
needed to sign
been
him.
it's always
Traded
been
away.
I'm a Bulls fan who loves Steph Curry. Now it's just I'm
I'm
a
a
Warriors,
Warriors
fan
fan.
who hates the Bulls.
Kaminga's there, Poole's there, Moody's there,
Man.
Steph's there. My guys are there. Looney, you know, I'm a big Looney guy. Wiggs, come on.
This is best case scenario if you're a Pistons fan.
Yes.
And this is why I had the Pistons high on my list
I
because
get it.
Other than the Suns are still crazy, but go on.
coaches love the situation. It's a perfect situation for a coach that wants to develop his own talent, that wants to bring in his own guys, and the bag. The bag is nuts. Listen, he can't tell me the bag was the number one option. The bag was undoubtedly, and then they gave him a team option, which is fucking hilarious, or a player option.
Imagine getting fired and then getting the highest contract in
Nuts.
sports for
Yeah.
a coach.
I think the situation is great though because I think you have a
Not in
collection.
sports, basketball.
You have a collection of good young players that you can develop, and you have the number 5 pick. So I think you can bring in your type of guy. That's huge. You have some calm veterans there, nothing too crazy. Rodney Magruder, Bogdanovic, Corey Joseph. Like the young players talk highly of Rodney Magruder, so that's good.
Cam Whitmore, lock 5.
I wouldn't say locked. They've talked about Jarris. They talked
Okay.
about Cam. I sneaky seen some talks about Osar. The jumper's been developing, so we'll see how it goes.
See about that.
Yeah, I think Monty though will probably pick Cam, but I think for them, like for Detroit, they needed somebody to get him over the hump. And me and Joel, it's funny because me and Joel was talking about this shit probably like 4 or 5 months ago. We were like, we don't think Casey is the guy that's gonna lead them into the next stage, and then he gets fired, and then they bring in Monty. Monty helped develop Phoenix. You know, he helped build that team into a contending team. So I think that's huge. And for somebody, they need somebody to help Cade. They need somebody to help Ivy. They need somebody to help Duran. I think Detroit, although he doesn't have a lot of pressure, there's still pressure. You got to win. You can't keep drafting in the top 5, in the top 3, in the top 7, and then you don't turn this into results. You got to make it into results now. You didn't drafted Cade. You didn't drafted. You traded for Duran. You drafted Ivy. You drafted Isaiah Stewart. You drafted Bay. Then you trade him. So you've been drafting guys to come into this young core. You drafted Killian Hayes with a lottery pick. We really forget that, but Killian Hayes was undoubtedly a lottery pick.
But this was his best season for sure.
Yeah, 1,000%. He was a lottery pick. So you expect this talent to come together. You have cap space. You have money. You can bring in some vets. You have another top 5 pick. So I think the expectations are we need to make a push for the play-in. We don't need to make it, but can we compete for the play-in? Can we hover around that 10, 11, 12 spot throughout the year? Can we make some noise, make some other teams look foolish, get some wins that take some other teams out the play, stuff like that. And I think that's what you need. And you need to see immediate development from Cade. This needs to be a big
sure.
year for Cade. You've been injured back-to-back seasons. You finally fixed that foot that was bothering you in Oklahoma State. I think it was the foot that bothered you in Oklahoma State. You finally got that fixed. You've shown signs as a playmaker, as a mid-range shooter, as a defender, but nothing that warrants any what we expected. And
He needs refinement.
Yeah, I'm a big Cade guy, and you have not shown us nothing of that top 5 MVP candidate like expectations. So now, year 3, you have to come show out big. I think Ivy is going to show something this year. Durbin's going to show something this year. But I think all in all, this was a great hire for Detroit. You need somebody with some experience, some development. People forget Monty was in New Orleans with the Hornets. Chris Paul, he developed some of those guys over there too. So he has a history of developing young
I
teams.
love when you say the Hornets.
It is what it is.
I
man.
love it. I'm not criticizing.
Yeah, so A+ signing. You had to throw the bag at him to get him out of saying I want to take a year. It was them and the Bucks. He obviously chose the better team.
Relax. You mentioned the development aspect. You have Mikal Bridges, of course. Cam Johnson comes to mind. Ayton, I guess you could say, is the disappointment in all of it. That's the number 1 overall pick. Definitely did not live up to expectations. Maybe will be.
He's better.
The bar is not that crazy to climb. Let's be honest.
But you come into Detroit. You mentioned it perfectly. You kind of get not a blank slate per se, but you have a lot of exactly. You have a lot of leeway. You have a lot of say in your organization. You have an insane amount of money now that was allocated to you. That is definitely something that's intriguing to me if I'm Monty Williams. I think Monty Williams is a great coach. I think that obviously this was an excellent no-brainer decision by the Pistons. You have some young guys that you want to progress. You understand that Jaden Ivey has a lot of potential, showed a lot of potential as a playmaker. We probably are expecting him to be your point guard. Cade, that needs to be number 1, and I understand everything that you said about Cade Cunningham, essentially everything you said about this situation, spot on. But Cade Cunningham needs to be the primary focus because this is supposed to be your franchise changer. I believe both Ivy and Cade can both run this offense, can be the point guard facilitators of this offense. But it's going to be interesting to see how the two coincide and they coexist because we really saw Ivy elevate as a playmaker once Cade went down. Cade had a ball the majority of the time, but then once he went down, obviously Ivy had the keys. So it's going to be interesting to see how those two coexist, how they're going to play Cade because we understand the versatility that he provides. But Monty, I think that he can do a great job of elevating these guys and getting them to that next level in their stages of development. So this is an excellent signing for Detroit. But I am interested to see what they do with this number 5 pick because, as I alluded to, I think they already have their point guard situation filled out. Sure. I think that if I'm them at 5, take it as a blessing in disguise. Of course, you would have loved to be in number 1. You were horrendous in the regular season. You would have loved Victor, would have slid in perfectly. But at number 5, take it as a blessing in disguise because last year it happened again. You were at 5, you sat there, didn't trade up to number 4. You were still able to get your guy Jaden Ivey. This time, I think 5, Cam Whitmore will be available. I think you need to fill out your wings. That's an excellent position. That's an excellent player to slide into your squad. You need wing depth for sure. Slide in next to Bogdanovich, excuse me. And then you just need guys that can get the ball into the basket, be athletic, and that's Cam Whitmore.
It's exciting. I think Detroit fans, we have one at this table all of a sudden. So it's
all of a sudden it's crazy.
Respect me.
I've
been here for 2 years.
I'm joking. Ever since Kay got that, I respect you. Just throw a little jab.
I was a Bay fan too.
Okay, really?
Yeah, Sadiq,
What
I
about
like
Killian Hayes? Okay.
no, it wasn't that far, buddy.
I respect that. If you were a Killian Hayes fan, I'd have questions.
Nah.
Originally, though, it was reported that Monty might have been sitting out for a season. So I don't think all of a sudden this Detroit roster changed overnight. I think he got $100 million in front of his face and said, you know what, I could live in Detroit. But all jokes aside, I mean, we know the Pistons, worst team in the league last year. Unfortunately, they dropped to the 5th pick. But this is still a team, like you mentioned, Drew. You still have to be excited for this, right? Because Monty's going to come in, and that money basically tells me you're our superstar, right? They don't have that superstar quite on that roster. We're hoping Cade can be, maybe even Jaden Ivey. But right now, they're treating Monty and saying, you more or less have the keys to this franchise. It's going to be your blueprint. You're going to put your hands on this roster and be able to kind of mold it the way you like. And I know Riv mentioned it too, but I think Monty's experience, because obviously remember the last few years with the Suns, a lot of success. They didn't win the finals, but went to the finals, multiple second rounds. So the fact that we remember that sometimes gets overshadowed, that he came into this team that the Suns team won 19 games when he took over, right? This was not a good Suns team. This is a very young Suns team. And he was the one that, of course, Devin Booker got better. You get the number 1 overall pick. You trade for Chris Paul. That all helps for sure. But he was really the one that made them into that competitive team, right? You like to see the growth there. But I think the fact that he's able to do both, he's able to show that he could develop these young guys. He could get guys to buy in. But once you are good enough, he's a coach that can get you to the finals. Of course, people have had their doubts over Monty. I don't think he should have been fired. I thought more than anything, the Nuggets were just a better team when they lost this season. But it's a roster with upside, and I think there's times where Dwayne Casey, who was great in Toronto, sometimes you just need a new voice, right? And I think that was kind of the situation here. Dwayne Casey, you're not going to be bad for this many years and keep your job. He moved up to the front office. But I think having a new voice in there, and Monty's respected around the league, players, coaches, whatever alike. So I think just all of the things that he could bring to this team, if you're a Pistons fan, I don't think there was a better coach out there for you.
The Suns were a 17-win team.
17? I said 19, right?
17-win team before Monty got there. The Pistons, they won 17 games this year. So I think the big difference is that the Suns had a proven star already with Devin Booker. I know we love to flaunt over Cade's potential. I think he has that sky-high potential as well, but it just hasn't materialized yet. His first season, you get a pass. Even in the second season before we got hurt, there wasn't much there that you looked to, and it was really promising. So he has to come out guns blazing in year 3. I think he has to really showcase that he can be the number 1 guy, because at this point right now, I don't know how confident I am in saying he is that number 1 guy. I think my confidence level is probably at a 50%. It can go either way, boom or bust, but I'm not very, very confident in it right now. I'm just not.
All right, Riv, how does that make you feel?
No, I mean, he played 12 games this year, so
it's very hard to judge anything.
I don't know what. I don't have a rebuttal for that. But last year he showed promise towards the end. You got to remember context to his rookie year. He missed in the summer. He missed training camp. He was hurt. He came in hurt. Once he recovered from that, though, he played really, really well towards the end of the year. But this year, it's 12 games. And he didn't look good in 12. It looked like he fixed his jumper and looked fucking disgusting. But yeah, so it's the 50% is warranted because he's been hurt a lot. So you want to see in year 3, you want to see a heightened improvement. You don't want him to you want him to be on a trajectory like Wagner was. When year 2 he came in, he was great. You saw the improvements. Cade kind of has to skip a year now. You can't have a sophomore slump. You kind of have to skip that and go straight into you need to be really, really good in year 3 because now the expectations. You're the number 1 pick. You know what I'm saying? So it's everybody had their sophomore slump. Jalen Green had his. Franz didn't have his.
Franz was OD.
Giddey also did not have his. Sengun didn't have his. So you kind of have to be. Mobley didn't. So you kind of have to be like the guy. I got to skip the sophomore slump, and I got to be on a great trajectory year 3. But I still think he's the best in his class, potential wise, and I still think he can do it, and Monty can help him with that. So
would you still take him over anyone in this class? Mobley. Wagner, I'm assuming still yes.
Yeah, I would have to. I think I would still.
I would still take Cade's potential over.
Yeah, I would still take all of his guys. I would still take him 1.
My 100%. Biggest question, because Cade, he's a question mark, but my real biggest question is, how are the role players going to fill out? Are they just going to keep the top 3 pick busts on the roster? I don't know.
Upside guys, young guys.
I'm out on James Wiseman. I am. I don't think he's a good NBA player.
He didn't play bad in his few appearances with the Pistons last year.
He was okay offensively.
Facts.
He was one of the worst defenders at his position. I think that his offense can be very easily replicated by somebody else. Mm-hmm. I just don't think he offers much. In Golden State, he wasn't a good player. And, you can argue, well, you needed him to develop quickly and win now. But the problem I have with Wiseman is that he was a high school phenom. At Memphis, he didn't play much, and he kind of missed a year of college, so we never really got to see how he was going to look like versus college competition. He goes straight into the NBA, and he's just not good. In the G League, he just doesn't have the winning basketball intangibles, and I don't know how much the Pistons still want to invest in him, considering Jalen Duren already has all the things you wish Wiseman had. So that's why at the end of last season, when they were playing Wiseman, similar minutes to Jalen Duren. It drove me crazy because Duren was a much better player.
They were trying to lose.
I know, and then Marvin Bagley. You know, Marvin Bagley's another one who he just offers offense and nothing else. And he's somebody, you know, he's productive, but you can replicate that production as well from other people. So my big question is, with all the cap space they're going to have, are they going to fill out their rotation with players that actually know how to play basketball? Or are they just going to go into another year of a full rebuild and try to see if one of these guys develops? Because at this point, I think they have their core. They have Cade, Ivy, and Duren. Those are the pillars. I'm interested to see what they do with the 5th overall pick, because Cade Cunningham coming out of the draft was viewed as a point forward, kind of like a Luka prototype. I always thought he was more kind of like a Tatum prototype, where he's a good shot creator, probably has a bit more playmaking prowess than Tatum, but I never viewed him as a natural playmaker. So I'm not sure if there's a world where maybe Cade is the small forward, Ivy is a 2 guard, and now you're drafting a floor general point guard like maybe a Cason Wallace, who has a safe floor and defensively would be a great matchup with Ivy. And then offensively, you just ask him to run the offense and hit open shots, and you still play off Cade, but you don't ask Cade to have all of the playmaking responsibilities. So, because I don't know how much I like the idea of a Cam Whitmore or another wing in this lineup, considering I feel like they still need a boost in playmaking as well and consistent shooting next to Cade.
I like Ivy as a playmaker, honestly.
Yeah.
My only problem with that lineup is I don't like
Kate.
Cade at the 3.
He's big enough to play it though. You know, he's 6'8". I think he's big enough to do it.
He doesn't have he's not that how do I explain it? Like Tatum, the problem with Cade at the 3 is he's big, he's tall, but he's not big enough to guard threes, play at the 3. He doesn't have a proper post up game yet. His mid range, his 3-point shot is still streaky. I kind of like, it's tough. And then that's
220.
That's still a skinny lineup. You know, Jaden Ivey, he's like 6'3", 6'4". He's not that big either. Yeah, you would want that. I don't know.
I just don't like the idea of just keeping adding on raw athletic players that just don't know how to shoot yet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I feel like, especially if you want to build around Cade, and that's the big question, because right now he still hasn't proven that he's worthy of building around. You know, I think you probably bet on yes. You need shooting around him, and that was a big thing his rookie season, that he was getting double teamed a lot. So if you can add somebody who is a great shooter and maybe doesn't have the upside, I'm fine with it, because I think Duren, Cade, and Ivy in themselves have a lot of upside. So I wouldn't even be mad if they went the Grady Dick route. I think Grady.
5.
I know that's high, but is there? It's not crazy to say Grady Dick could be a better NBA player than Cameron Whitmore. It's not. I understand the Cameron Whitmore projection, but Grady Dick projects as
a sharpshooter.
A sharpshooter who can also handle the ball, occasionally play make, and if he bulks up, can be an okay defender.